It's uncertain to tell what the starting material for a blacksmith in the Iron Age would have been when he came to make a sword, whether it would be a unworked bloom from a furnace or whether it would be a billet similar to the currency bars we find at various hill forts. Regardless of what it was, the blacksmith would have had to do some preparation before he started forging the sword out, whether this was simply extending out a quasi-blade shape from a large bulk of iron, or whether this was taking smaller pieces and fire welding them together, or even, as we know from the archaeology, layering up various materials such as iron and high carbon steels to make a superior sword. When forging the Northburst Dead Man's sword, there were a few things to take into consideration. The original from the grave, although very well preserved, still had its tip missing and was fused within its scabbard. As such, it was impossible to have a real in-depth look at the blade and all of its details. However, the context of the grave and other grave goods really indicated that this sword was of a Continental Le 10-3 style. As such, it was most likely that this sword had a rounded slashing tip as opposed to an angled thrusting point. With this in mind, forging the blade, I had to make sure I kept enough material at the tip so I could have that wider slashing end. This isn't to say that these styles of swords are without definition, and in fact the profiles of these swords typically taper very gently until around the last 80mm, where it increases, however not so much it comes to a thrusting point.
Once the tip of the sword has been forged, the next step is to draw the billet out to the desired length. The preserved remains of the original sword put it at having an estimated blade length of about 847mm long. So to reach this length, we use the crosspeen of the hammer to push the metal forwards while not spreading it too much. So once the blade of the sword has been forged, the next step is to make the tang. Now the tang is the section of the sword that holds the handle on, and fortunately for us, the original still had its tang intact. This makes it fairly easier for me, as all I need to do is measure the original, which told me it was about 14cm long, and then just make it to those dimensions. Making the sword handle was one of the most interesting parts of this project, because you've got to do a fair amount of detective work to determine what shape the handle took and what materials were used in the creation of the original. Fortunately for us, there was a bronze guard plate near the blade and 2 bronze discs spaced along its tang. Those told us the extent of how wide the handle would get, but also how thin it became, and also that it was made in separate sections. Also, there was horn remains on one of the sections, so it told us what material we were going to use for the rest of the handle. The question there is whether it is cow horn or goat's or sheep's horn to use. Cow horn unfortunately doesn't produce solid sections big enough to or wide enough to make a sword handle of this size. So in that sense, we then chose a nice large ram's horn to produce the handle from.